Hey guys, and welcome to the Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report presented by Angelo DePaola, the Coastal Connection with eXp Realty. The first podcast to bring you the local inshore, offshore, and onshore fishing report, whether it's good, bad, or ugly. I am your host, Butch Thierry, and I am joined today with Tanner Deas with Dolphin Island Fishing as my co-host. How we doing today, Tanner?
What's up, Butch? I'm doing well. Thank you again for having me on. It's great to be on the show. Can't wait to talk about some fishing, see what these guys are doing, how they're catching fish, and how maybe I can go catch some more or learn something here.
Yep. The idea is definitely learning.
Yeah, man. If you can keep learning and keep fishing, you only get better.
That's the idea anyways.
That's right.
I guess at some point you would go the other way, but you got to keep moving forward.
Trust the process.
That's right. That's right. Well, man, yeah, like you say, I got to get out Monday or Tuesday, I think, with Captain Richard. And,
that's right. You told me.
Yeah, we had a good day. It was pretty steady action, but trout fishing was still a little bit of a grind. Nice weather, so that's really all you can ask for. It's been pretty windy still. I wish the wind would stop blowing.
Yeah, windy week. So nice you got to go on one of those last calm days.
Yep.
Were you guys down at the island? You say it was a hard trout bite. So
it was. Yeah, we fished a little bit in the sound and a little bit around the island and in between.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. It's been a little tough trout bite for me too, especially during the day.
Yeah.
Down there.
Yeah. So y'all had some good success at the Saltwater Fanatics tournament.
Yeah, man. Weekend. Me and Brandon Collier, me and Captain Collier, we teamed up, the Googans. Guggen squad.
I like it.
Yeah, we had to do that because I lost about $50 in terminal tackle last tournament weekend.
It happens.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Well, just kind of walk us through kind of what you guys were targeting and kind of your thought process going into tournament day. I know last time that we had you on, I don't remember if it was the last time you co-hosted or not, but we were talking about your sheep's head tournament and you kind of walked us through kind of your learning process.
Yeah, man, absolutely.
Before tournament day. So just kind of walk us through it.
Well, this was really cool. It was a 2-day tournament. So it started at midnight on Saturday. And so we got right after it. We got the boat in the water and started to do some night fishing. You know, just kind of bouncing around, hitting some light areas and stuff like that. Our baits were mostly live shrimp, just kind of flipping them around, free lining them. Typically something I would do with a circle hook or something like that. But we were using treble hooks. Captain Collier was using a treble hook, and I was using just an octopus hook, traditional like I was when I was sheep's head fishing, you know, and just setting the hook on those things and catching a lot of legal size trout, pitching out live shrimp, and, you know, just not a ton of sizable fish, I would say, doing that, but a really good bite, couple white trout too. We did end up catching, you know, 2 or 3 trout around 20 inches, 20 plus, pitching those live shrimp at night. And I caught my biggest of the night, 21 and a half on a soft plastic.
It was a big trout. It looked much bigger than that. It was a great picture.
Yeah, it was a good picture. It was only 21 and a half inches. Came in.
That's a good trout, man.
Came in at a little, I think it was 3 pounds and like 3-4 ounces. So nothing crazy. And then he caught one right at 22 on a shrimp. And so that was just our baits of choice. My soft plastic is called the Sexy Penny, and it's got a little new penny color in there. And so I'm sure it kind of looks shrimp-like. I did notice, though, kind of outside of the tournament fishing, we'll get right back to it, but just before that, too, chartreuse has just been a really crucial color and what I've been doing and kind of seeing success in, especially with this dirtier water we've had.
It's definitely been dirty.
That's kind of mixed in with that new penny color that I've been throwing. And so I've just noticed a trend on the chartreuse. Maybe somebody else has too. I'll be interested to see. But continuing with the tournament stuff, man, it was just bad conditions and super windy.
Super windy for sure.
We had to hide and just kind of run all around. Wind seemed to change direction multiple times. That we had a lightning storm come through and hail. I'm going to get the truck and the trailer, and Brandon's waiting at the boat launch, getting hailed on. I saw him backing me up all frantic. It was good stuff. But the lightning, man, it came up. You know, we saw it, and then, you know, we probably could have gone ahead. We fished for about 10 more minutes.
Yeah, 10 more minutes than you should have.
Yeah, it was 10 more minutes.
Needed those 10 more minutes. Yeah.
But I mean, God, I think it was only 10 or 15 minutes of bad storms. And then we were relaunching the boat and back at it. Got back on the water. We fished all day till like 3 or 3:30 on no sleep. And that was tough. And you know, I'll say what we learned is the conditions were so bad, we probably could have gone to bed.
Right.
You know, around 8 or 9 a.m. that morning, we probably could have gone to bed and just gotten some rest.
Not beat your head against the wall.
Right. Because, I mean, we really did. We probably fished, golly, probably 16 hours, 18 hours that first day. And so it was just a lot. We ended up changing locations and leaving the island and relaunching the boat in the bayou in the afternoon, just really going after it. But got home, got some rest, and just kind of woke up and did some top waters and threw that around at the bayou and stuff like that. And then conditions seems to lay down, and we got to chase our target species. We were never even really going to chase trout. I will say that I've been talking about trout the whole time, but we were really going down there to hit the lights and down in the nighttime areas to go chase redfish. I'd gotten some reports and seen some really cool videos of the lights and 30, 40, 50 redfish on those things. And we were down there and that was just not the case.
Dang.
You know, we had a quick change of plans and trout kind of just pulled through and we came by the skin of our teeth, some really great fishermen in that tournament. And so we bagged third place trout and that was really cool. I think our 3 fish aggregate was around 9 pounds and 9.44 pounds or something like that.
That's awesome.
So that was really cool. And like I said, around 11 o'clock on Sunday, we finally got to go chase the fish that we wanted to and go get some sheep's head. We had a bunch of crabs that we had gotten and got out there on the sheep's head. Same rig you and me went to.
Nice.
And, you know, just started dropping crabs and each of us pulled up a 23-inch sheep, got on multiple over 20s and
that's awesome.
Filled the box and got a few more for the freezer. We figure that's probably the last time we'll go out there and chase them. And so, that was it. So we came back home and Brandon won first place with his sheep's head. It was 23 inches to the fork and 9.5 pounds or so.
It's a big sheep's head.
And mine was 23 inches to the fork and it was 8 pounds, 9 ounces or so. And so I'm guessing, you know, one had already spawned and one hadn't.
That makes sense.
Something like that. But what was really cool is when we got there, you know, the Sea Lab took the fish and they took the ear bones out. And so typically we don't kill fish that big, but we will get to figure out how old they were and do a little bit of science. And so that was really cool.
For sure, man. I want to bring you back to a couple things or one thing in particular. You were talking about he was using the treble hooks and you were using those octopus hooks.
That's right.
Do you notice any difference on hookup ratio? Because I know that's an age old question, you know, especially with trout. Everybody growing up or when I was doing, you know, using a little bitty size 10 hooks.
Yeah.
And I know like Patrick and I'm pretty sure Richard and Bobby like the octopus style. Kale hooks as well.
I really like the octopus style hooks a lot, just kind of in coming to fish with them a lot for sheep's head. I think I threw soft plastics more. That's maybe why I lost about $50 or $60 in terminal tackle, snags
Right.
and not trying to ruin spots and everything else. So, you know, it is what it is on that. But I think he saw a great hookup ratio with his treble hook. He's definitely a practiced fisherman and
right.
He locked it in on the trout. Like I said, I only had that one decent one and he was really ripping lips with the live shrimp that night. So the treble hook saw more fishing time than the octopus hook, but they both had a good hookup ratio.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think it's all about, you know, feel, especially being conscious of
sure.
that bite. If you're not going to do that, then you got to put a kale or a circle hook on and
You gut so many fish with the treble hook. I feel
like. Well, he really didn't. He really was like on top of that bite. It was just right in the lip. It worked really well.
Yeah, that's a way to do it. Like you're saying, if you pay attention, that's not a bad strategy. But if you're free lining, you know, a long ways or something like that, you might want to avoid that.
That's right. He saw that line move. I did notice he was real conscious of that. He saw that line move and he was like, oh, there he is. And he'd just get tight and boom. Rip that thing. So it was cool, man. It was cool to watch. And I really enjoyed the tournament fishing. I did some of it last year and wasn't quite as capable as I am now. So I can't wait to see what the next few tournaments hold.
Season.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Sounds good, man. All right, dude. Well, let's get into the fishing reports. We're gonna go down and see what the ultimate beach bum is up to. All right, folks, we have a great Alabama saltwater fishing report lined up for you this week. Let's take a few minutes and hear from a few of this week's great sponsors. This week's Alabama saltwater fishing report is brought to you by Sportsman Marine. Sportsman Marine has an extensive tackle selection of anything that local anglers need for saltwater and freshwater fishing, as well as boating accessories. They have the largest selection of the slick lure in Mobile and Baldwin County. They have Atco, Pelagic, and Saltwater Fanatics apparel along with other local brands. Go check out their Edgewater, Wellcraft, and Vexus lines of boats. They offer engine services with 5-star Yamaha and Mercury mechanics. And also brought to you by Fishing Chaos, Fishing Tournaments Near Me 2022. The Fins Fishing Classic will be April 9th through May 1st, 2022. Ticket sales are online now at Fishing Chaos app and at fishingchaos.com. Ticket sales end April 30th, 2022 at 11:59 p.m. The inaugural Fins Fishing Classic, presented by Fins Apparel. The net proceeds will benefit United Ways across the 8-state region of this event. The goal of this tournament is to raise funds and awareness for United Way, as well as connect anglers on their local United Way chapter. The proceeds from this event will be divided proportionally based on how many anglers participate from each community. The categories are freshwater and saltwater. Make sure you check it out at fishingchaos.com or on the Fishing Chaos app to learn more. And also, Photonis Defense. Photonis Defense is proud to offer the PD Pro line of night vision systems. The PD Pro series is the world's smallest and lightest night vision goggles built around the Photonis 16mm filmless 4G image intensifier tubes and their hybrid filmless 18mm image intensifier tubes. The ultralight, ultra-compact night vision systems deliver cleanest image, best resolution, smallest, most transparent halo, and best overall performance and function of any night vision system available. The PD Pro line consists of the PD Pro M 16mm monocular, the PD Pro B 16mm binocular, and the PD Pro Q panoramic night vision system. Photonis Defense, masters of darkness. All right, Bama Beach Bum, welcome back to the Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report, man. What's been going on?
Well, it is Pompano time, man. It feels, it feels like it takes forever for it to get here, and then when it gets here, it's just like wham,
pandemonium,
smacks you in the face.
Yeah, 25 rods on the beach.
Yeah, that's YouTubers, you got to do some stupid stuff. I would never recommend that or ever do that if I weren't a YouTuber.
Sounds like good exercise.
I don't know.
It's
It sounds like a good way to get some pompano. I mean, you maximize your effort.
It worked. The interesting.
Worked, he said.
Yeah, we caught some fish.
If
If you don't know, he's referencing a video I posted. Me and a few guys, we set out 25 rods, and we were pompano fishing. Yeah, the cool thing about it, so there were, of course, people fishing on either side of us that caught some fish throughout the day, but there were we knew when the pompano schools were running, because every time they ran through, we caught fish. Now the people on either side, maybe they caught one early, one late, fishing normally, like I normally would, 2 or 3 rods, whatever. Mm-hmm. And that's how, probably how my day would have gone. But when you got 25 out there, anytime those schools of fish came through, we were catching 2, 3, 4 fish. So it was kind of cool just being able to know, like, oh, fish are here, and it would be a burst of, about 15 minutes of catching fish. And then it would be done for the next 45 minutes to an hour. So it was cool, just from that, and being able to have so many depths and features and everything covered that, like, we knew. Man.
Yeah. I mean, that's a gauntlet.
That's literally maximized your chances. You're covering like 5% of water in this area to gotta be 50% of the water, maybe 25 rods and 100-yard space.
It's a lot. Yeah.
I saw you running. You were out of breath.
Yeah. Well, I'm not in the best shape either, but running on the sand 100 yards, that's
a long way.
That's intense.
I would definitely die.
It was cool. And it definitely teaches you a lot about your capacity, what you can really manage, because when you think about it, like 25 rods, you're like, that's not that many, but when you see it in person and you're on the beach, it's like, holy cow,
it's a lot of rods.
Yeah. This is a lot of fishing rods in the water, and it's just a mess. But no way I would ever attempt that by myself. I had some help.
I think impossible on your own.
Yeah. 10. I did do 10 in another video, which fortunately that day the bite was extremely slow, fortunately. But 10, if the bite was hot with 10 by myself, that would be chaotic.
Maybe this is how you get in shape. Maybe this could be the Bama Beach Bum fitness idea.
Yeah.
That's
exercise 101.
I'll take a cut of that. We'll talk about that later.
Okay, sounds good.
So whenever you got 25 rods out, like, did you guys try and do, 5 this way, 5 this way, 5 this way? Did y'all have any rhyme or reason, or are you just like slinging and banging?
It's funny. Like I would recommend that, like, trying to be strategic in where you put your rods. But when you've got 25,
kind of do what you want.
It's so hard to keep up. Like I couldn't even. It was very overwhelming. And I can have anxiety at times, and it gave me pretty high anxiety. Like with 25 lines in the water. Like I didn't feel good about it. It's weird because when I fished 2 or 3 rods, when you throw a bait out, when you surf fish, you'll understand what I mean. Like you sometimes just feel good about your bait being on your hook, like there, present in the right spot. You just feel good. You're like,
it's
okay.
almost like right where it is.
Yes, and you feel good. Like I know my bait's
you're
there.
baited up, right? You just
when I
checked
had
it or
20,
whatever.
yes, like but when 25 are out, I'm like, I don't feel good about any of this. Like I feel like every one of them doesn't have bait on it. None of them are in the right spot. Like it just feels like a cluster mess. So
Absolutely.
I'm getting anxious just thinking about it.
You just can't focus on any one. You can't see that little nibble on every single thing. One rod's getting hit behind you, and then 5 rods down, that one's getting hit
always
too,
got rods at your back. Always. Like you can't look. It's just
not conscious.
No.
Yeah, that's right.
That would be a little stressful.
Yeah.
Well, so they're starting to show up over there. People are catching them pretty good. Other than the 25 rod day, what else you guys been getting into?
So I did spend on one of our decent weather days. I went out in the morning and I did throw. I jigged. I just walked the beach and jigged, and I actually ended up catching my personal best pompano ever.
Nice.
So yeah, I know. Like I've never caught a pompano, or even seen, even in my guiding, I've never seen a pompano personally over 4 pounds. Like, I mean, several in the 3s, but I've never put my eyes in person on a pompano over 4. And this one was 4.5. So, and to catch it on a jig too. Like, I mean, like that's
super awesome, man. I think I commented on that photo. That was a big fish.
Yeah.
Very cool. Congratulations on the PB.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Even cooler on a jig.
It really is. Yeah, that's special to me. I am going to get a replica mount of that one.
Nice. That's awesome, dude.
I always said if I catch a pomp over 4, I'm doing a replica mount. So I'm put the jig in its mouth.
I love it. That's cool.
Definitely. Well, any particular color? I mean, what was the water clarity like down there for you guys?
Man, that I was talked about it in the video, and I just posted it, I think yesterday. And this was Sunday, I think, the day that I went out. But Sunday morning, the water was perfect. It was like primo pompano conditions. The waves were perfect. Like just you could not have picked more perfect conditions. And where I actually started catching my fish, because I covered some water. I started at the jetties and nothing. I assumed that's where I would have some success, but there was nothing. I spent a lot of time there just casting. And then I started covering the beach. And as I was walking down the beach, I noticed some soft structure, some feature that I really liked. And I was like, there's going to be fish there, whether it's pompano or something. I know that fish are going to be hanging in this area. And there happened to be a school of pompano in that cut. And it was like every cast there for about 10 minutes.
Man, that's really awesome. I do have a question, because I've only targeted pompano with, surf rigs and set rigs and stuff like that. What's the difference? What are you looking for when you're throwing those pomp jigs out there on the beach? And I hear you say you're casting for them on the jetties. What do you want that to look like?
Yeah, you covering water can be productive. Like if you're just walking and just blind casting and just covering it, because the thing about pompano, they're so mobile. Like, I mean, it's weird. I don't know how to explain this. They will hold in an area, but they move so much. But you do need, like, if you can focus on those areas, those soft structures, those cuts, any kind of moving water, anything that looks different, those schools will kind of meander through there. And that's the cool thing about when you're jig fishing is, like, you find the school, you'll get bites, you'll catch fish, and then you can keep throwing that same spot, and then it's nothing. And you just have to readjust and just find, like, you're chasing that school around. I've done it on a boat at the jetties, and I've done it on the beach. It's a really cool experience when you find a school, and then you just kind of have to continue to find them with your casts and locate them. It's a neat experience.
Yeah, that sounds really fun. I'll have to get some jigs and get out there and throw for them. I tried to fish for them a few times this year and had some luck doing it here and there last year, but so far I just haven't had the flat calm conditions and cleaner water come over here.
That's the thing about over here is we don't have the water quality like you guys have.
It takes like a week of no rain, no heavy winds for finally the West End beach will clean up, because it's so far away from the bay. You know what I'm saying? It'll clean up. It'll get real clear, crystal clear over there. I can see what I need to see and I can go target them. But I mean, it just takes a lot for conditions to line up for me to target them on this end. But it sounds like I'll have to get some jigs out and try it whenever it's clean, because it sounds fun.
It's a lot of fun. It's a great way to pompano fish and pack light, and I love it. But yeah, I can see where you're at over there, especially with all the dang rain.
Pompano is really tough over here.
Yeah, I would think so.
Well, that's awesome to hear about your success, fishing for those pompano on the jigs and kind of what you're looking for and what you're doing with them. What else are you looking forward to, or what else have you been targeting, man? I'd love to hear about it.
Well, there's a fish that I get the most excited about, and way more than pompano, and that's jacks.
Let's go.
It is springtime.
They're fun.
And here's the thing about jacks, and it's a controversial fish because
they're so underrated.
They are, and we say that, and we continue to talk about this, but it is a world-class fish. I'm not kidding, that we have in our backyard.
No doubt.
And that I think so many people just take for granted. And the cool thing about jacks, man, they give you everything you want out of a fish. I mean, their eats, their fight, they look cool. I mean, it's, aside from eating, everything you want out of a fish. If you want to go catch some fish, they're amazing fish, sport fish. And so I did spend a day here recently looking for them on Gulf Shores Pier because they're coming through. The cool thing about the spring, man, is these schools come through in waves, and it's almost like clockwork once they start. So like I sat out there pretty much all day, and we didn't see our first school until probably 11:30 or 12. It was like midday. And then from that point forward, about every hour and a half, you just have this school of hundreds of fish.
Yep.
And it's so cool, man. It's so cool to see. And this time of year, they can be pretty finicky. Like they're not quite fired up yet. Like some of these schools, you'll throw in them, and they're just like, I don't want anything to do with it. Yeah, they're like, screw that. I'm out of here. But one of the schools did eat, and two of us hooked up. I hooked up, and what does suck about our pier right now in Gulf Shores, it's an incredible pier for jack fishing. Like any pier along the north central Gulf Coast right here, we're number one for jacks. Number one. Like if you want to go catch jack crevalle on the pier, that's your best chance. But what sucks is our pier is still broken, and you have very limited space. So you have
jacks
to stop
will do
that
you
fish.
Dirty.
They do. They are the hardest fish to catch on a pier. I mean, hardest fish to catch on a pier because you can't control them. I mean, they're going to do what they want to do. They're big, strong, powerful fish, and you're going to get wrapped up in some structure. You got to stop them, and sometimes that's difficult. And I got broke off, but it was fun fighting it.
It happens.
Always. The tug is the drug. Man, so I got to get out with Richard on Tuesday of this week, I think. And we were down the west end of Dauphin Island, and I bet we saw 20 pods of 20.
Jacks? Yes. I love hearing that. It is
thick.
time.
You could have walked on them down the beach.
Oh, it's time. I'm going.
And I throw a slick lure in front of a couple of them. But like you were saying, they were super finicky. I'm not real sure why, because that is not necessarily the jack attitude that I'm used to seeing.
Well, do you think it's the water temp? Because my theory is that they weren't even going to show up at our beaches until we saw a sustained 70 to 75 degrees of water. And I will say that is just like such a basic level amateur theory, because like I only was fishing heavily for them last year. So, but I mean, I caught a lot. But
yeah, it's not uncommon this time of year when we start seeing these first schools coming through that they're not real
fired up.
Yeah. And I think that's probably because lack of bait too. Like there's not a lot of bait. So like, once it gets to the point where we've got like LY and pogies or whatever hanging around the pier, and we have, because there's no bait fish around it.
Not much for them to forage on.
But what happens, once the bait starts showing up is, they're cruising down the beach, and then they just erupt when they get to the pier. And then it's like game on. And that we're not to that point yet. So we did get that one school to eat. And what I have noticed, because it was cool, because this was like the first day that all us little pier rats that were hanging out on the pier that chase this kind of crap were out there. And we coordinated our efforts here. So like we all
pier
were like,
rats chasing cheese.
I like it.
Yes, it's pretty fun. It's a good community of people. But we were trying a couple things. We first threw at some fish before they hit the pier, and those were the ones that ate. And then we were like, well, let's try to let them go through, because if we can hook them on the west side, it's a lot easier to land them, because that's the direction they're going. They're going to want to keep going that way, and instead of taking you under the pier. But once they got to the pier and saw the pier, they did not want to eat. Like they were super spooky and all that. So the best way to actually get to eat was to throw at them, long before they got to the pier. So anyway, that's just something we noticed the other day.
Well, what's your favorite bait to throw at those guys? I mean, I fish for them a lot, artificially. I think that's kind of a lot of what I saw you doing on your channel last year, but I'm sure you have a favorite live and plastic bait for them. What do you like to use?
I've never thrown a live bait, at them. I don't do a ton of live bait fishing, but I'm sure a big mullet, I'm sure they would smoke it. But I love poppers. Now we're not there yet. We're not there yet.
It's the best
but
way.
Jacks on poppers. That's what I'm saying. Like, people travel to way more exotic locations to get that type of fishing that we have
GTs.
right here. I know. GTs, rooster
GT level fish.
Rooster fish, what I was thinking.
All that kind of stuff that people travel to, the ends of the earth to go do this stuff. We have it right here. I mean, it's the same experience, the same fish. It's just, I love it. It's cool.
It's just got a stigma to it, which is dumb.
It is. Yeah. I had some days last year, I won't say where I was at because then it'll just get ruined. But I mean, golly, I had some days where I caught half a dozen 10 jacks in one day, losing, 3-4 poppers. But I mean, golly, it's just so worth it. You just get dumped, you get put on your butt. Spinner sharks even hit those poppers. And fun.
Yes.
It's just so cool, man. It is such a great fishery. And once you really learn it, you can kind of, really do some damage, follow those fish and really get after them. I've had a ton of luck, obviously, like you said, the most fun is with poppers, but big spoons, they work pretty good for them too.
We even threw those on Monday, Tuesday, gold spoons, slick lures, nothing.
I can't believe they didn't eat for you guys. It'll happen. 5 more degrees.
I'm not surprised. Yeah, I'm not surprised. We were throwing, everybody had cobia jigs tied on at the pier, but try if you have another shot at it, Butch, try like an X-Wrap or something in the springtime.
Big jerk
something.
bait.
Yeah, something that just really pisses them off. That's going to be your best shot.
Yeah, we weren't ready at all.
You were ready for trout.
We were trout fishing and sight fishing.
You'll get done dirty on your 2,500 when
for sure
30-pound jack hits that thing.
Yeah, I really wasn't excited about it, but at a point I just got to where I was mad. I was like, y'all got to buy something.
It's fun, but it can be a little stressful.
Yeah.
So one more question about the jacks before we move on or whatever. What's your favorite, reel size and setups for those things? Because like I was just saying, you go out there with a 2,500. I've been spoiled once or twice.
May or may not work out for you.
I've been trying to chase the fish up the beach before, I'm halfway waist deep in the water. I got to get out and the fish is already gone 100 yards, my 150 yard spool. And the next thing you know, you turn around and it's just bing. It's gone. You know what I'm saying? So what do you think is your favorite and what do you like to run for them?
Yeah, I've caught 2 jacks on 2,500 and 3,000 size reels, and it's not fun.
It's so tough.
Not a pleasant experience. Not recommended. And it's not good for the fish either.
That's how I caught my PB, dude. It was just ridiculous. And
it happens for the fish. But I like to gear up and because I like to keep my jack fights even on 20, 25 pounders. I want to make sure I have that fish in less than 8 minutes. I want that to be, people talk about hour jacks and stuff. I mean, but if you hook a jack on trout gear, it's going to take you an hour at least. But that's going to kill that fish, and it's a jack. I mean, I don't know, who cares, I guess, but
I guess, like we said, it's a world-class fish if you see it that way. So it sucks to see it die for no reason.
Yeah. Sure. I don't want to kill anything I'm not going to eat if I don't have to.
Right. So yeah, I use 4,500s and 6,500 reels. Like when I'm throwing poppers, I use it's a 10.5 foot Paraflex with a 6,500 reel, and it's got 40-pound braid on it, and I can, there's not been a jack that I've hooked that it's taken me more than 8 minutes, and I know too because I'm timing it because I got my GoPro. So like I have like legit time reference on how long it took me to fight that fish, and nothing's been over 8 minutes. So that's
good.
Yeah, that's what I like to keep it under. I feel like that's good. I feel like it's decent.
That's cool for people to know. I'm right there pretty much in the same range. I actually don't throw a 10.5 foot rod. I have just a 7 foot ugly stick, just kind of a medium heavy fast action rod. So it's real fun. And then I just have a Pin Battle 5,000.
5,000's got plenty of backbone.
I think it's fine.
It does well.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, man, that's a great report. Enjoyed talking about the jacks with you. Folks want to follow you on the YouTubes or the Facebook and all that stuff. What's the best way to get in contact with you?
Yeah, just search Bama Beach Bum, any of the socials, and it should pull it up.
Awesome, man. We appreciate the report, and we look forward to hearing from you next time, man. Thanks again, Mathew.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
All right, guys, that was a great segment. Let's take a quick break and hear from a few of this week's sponsors. That segment was brought to you by Foster Contracting, Fortified Roofing Pros. The recent thunderstorms that have been producing wind and hail in the area may have damaged your home's roof. The certified roofing pros at Foster Contracting offer free roof inspections, and if your roof has received damage, most homeowners will have little or no cost out of pocket when going through your insurance. If you're looking for quality construction with a dependable, licensed, and certified fortified roofing professional, give the Fortified Roofing Pros a call at 251-973-9999. They're a family-owned business that is big enough to get the job done, but small enough to care. Remember to support the local businesses that make your local podcast possible, and check them out at fortifiedroofingpros.com. And also, Ricciardone Family Dentistry. You're going to need a good dentist, so you may as well make an appointment with fellow angler Josh Ricciardone. He provides services for all ages and accepts most dental insurances. Do not let an achy tooth ruin a day on the water. Call today to book an appointment at 251-342-6672. All right, Tanner, let's head on down and talk to Captain Richard Rutland with Cold-Blooded Fishing. What you say, Captain Blood? How we doing today?
What's up, boys? How's everybody doing?
What up, man?
What's up? We're doing good, man. Just talking fishing with our buddies. Got to talk to the Bama Beach Bum. He said, Bama Beach Bum said to tell you hello.
Cool, man. I love me some Ultimate, man. I saw he caught a big pompano this week, man.
He did. Yeah, 4.5 pounds, his PB.
That's a hammer.
On a jig, walking the beach. So that's pretty cool. Wasn't set rig fishing.
I just saw his video the other day where he was somewhere and caught a big permit off the pier. I wanted to comment, hey, that's a permit, not a pompano or whatever. I didn't mess with it too bad, man. I left it alone. I had the thought crossed in my mind, but I don't want to mess with him too bad. You know, he already gets picked on enough by all these, the 5 million followers he has on YouTube. You know,
I'm sure he's got a plethora of haters.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, he seems to shake them off pretty good, though.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
Yeah, I like the bomb.
Yeah, well, he should know better than anybody. It's lonely at the top, man, you know?
Yep, that's exactly right. Well, what you been up to, man? I know you and I got to fish Monday with Blakely over at CCA, Alabama. Other than that, what you been up to? Just kind of walk us through what you've been seeing.
Man, it's kind of the same tune we've been kind of singing still in this transition period where you're catching fish good one day and the next day they're not there, not turned on and whatnot. And a lot of that's still due to these big swings in the weather that we've had where you've got, high water one day, low water the next. And, temperatures are still kind of wanting to fall down to the 50s at night and whatnot.
It's about to get funky for the next couple of days again.
Yeah, and then I was kind of looking long range at the forecast. Looks like next week we got a pretty stiff southeast wind that's going to dig in like all week. It looks like every day starting Monday we're going to have like a 15 plus knot southeast wind every day. But that's just typical springtime, you know what I mean? It's just typical spring, it's here and it's there, and you just got to be on the move. Got to be looking for them to find a little daylight. So, like I said, not a whole lot's changed. Looking forward, the good news is it looks like the river levels are starting to drop up in the river systems, the north part of the bay and whatnot. Coupled with that southeast wind should blow some cleaner water in our area, and we got some big tides happening right now through next week. So coupled with those couple of things, I think it's going to start to look up here for too long and really get good. The downside to fishing right now is the really hot bite right now has been that sheephead bite has been really good, but bad news is it's hard to
can't get out there.
Yeah, it's hard to get out there, So anyway, this is you get in these periods that you kind of find out who the men and who the boys are, getting out there and battling the conditions and being creative with trying to find some schools of fish. I do like a southeast wind, but when it's going to blow as hard as it's going to blow, it's just going to make it challenging. Generally speaking, it does not mess up the water quality real bad when you've got a high southeast wind. So
positive.
Yeah, you can start to find some protection back there behind Fort Morgan and behind the island, and even down kind of the Mississippi Sound, like in Portersville Bay, Heron Bay, Grand Bay. A lot of those places will hold up well on the southeast wind. It's gonna make it challenging to get there a lot of times. But anywho, it like I said, I'm trying to be positive about it. You go out one day and you have really good days when the weather settles out a little bit, and you go back the next day and you're like, man, what the heck am I doing? Should I be charging people money to take them fishing in on these days, but it is what it is. It's springtime. Like I said, it's still a transition phase, and I think the fish are probably just as confused as everybody else at the moment. So
I agree 100% in my findings and my fishing that I've been doing recently. I mean, it's just like you say, it's
Day to day to
bipolar
day.
almost.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? One day you're in a spot, you're ripping lips. The next day, you may not be in the same spot, but you're matching those conditions, and it's just shut down, lockjaw, nothing going on. It's just like you say, fish are probably just as confused as we are. Weather's changing, highs and lows are changing 10, 15, 20 degrees. I can only imagine what it's doing to them.
Yep, that's right. Well, good news is I'm starting to, I'm always trying to be positive this time of year, because it can be tough. But good news is starting to see a lot of baits start to show up and get active. Got a good report from some guys at the Sea Lab. Did like a little bit of shrimp trawling in the bay, and they had a good catch on their on one of their trawls that they were doing. I'm not sure what they were doing out there, but I got a video. There's a bunch of shrimp in the bay, and talking to my bait guy, Jimmy Knoll up there at Deer River Bait and Tackle at the Industrial Canal. He's when he can get out with the weather, he's catching bait good. And even he and I were kind of comparing notes earlier this morning, and he said kind of the same thing, that we're singing, about, man, I go out there and catch them one day and I can load up on my bait tanks and, I'll sell out and I go back out again and can't hardly catch them, kind of thing. It's a little bit hit and miss. And of course he's struggling with the fresh water as well. That's been coming down, cause he can catch the shrimp down in that deep water where he catches them, but he's got to pull them through that fresh water, and then get them in his tanks real quick
and they
on his boat to keep them alive and whatnot. So everybody's kind of got their struggle this time of year, but like I said, on the upside of things, I feel like we got some good conditions coming with the, southeast wind will blow some good water in here and big tides. River levels are starting to fall. So hopefully we're looking in the right direction, and generally speaking, the water temperature is starting to come on up some too.
Yep, I did see that with you Monday. It was around 72 or 73 on the beach, I believe, whenever we were trying to put something together down there.
Yep, that's right. I know you and I didn't do a whole lot out there on the beach, but that was very encouraging to see what we saw out there. We saw, porpoises in there working bait, and we saw some mullet jump in, some finger mullet.
All those jacks. I was telling Beach Bum about all those jacks we saw.
Yeah, those jacks were wild, man. Did y'all talk about that?
Yeah, dude, we did. I was talking about how I can't wait till they start chewing good. That's just a really fun fish to catch from the beach.
They are, and the ones we saw would look like they'd have been like a fun size to catch,
Yep.
like they weren't those big like 20 plus
15s.
pounders, they look like they were, they look like they're like little bit we'll call them medium sized ones, but man, they weren't interested in anything we were throwing at them. We tried to get in front of them with some lures and get the rod to bend and the drag to scream a little bit.
Typically, they don't give you the option.
Yeah, it was wild though, man. Because I always think about those jacks as being garbage disposals. You know what I mean? They'll just chew up anything.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, Beach Bum was saying that he wasn't that surprised. Apparently they see them every year around this time, cruising the beach, and they're super finicky and hard to get to bite, which I guess I've never really done that before. So that surprised me.
Yeah, that's exactly what
happened. Yeah.
It's got to be water too.
Yep.
That's my theory.
Yeah, I don't know why they'd be grouped up like that, just bowling around, because it's literally like we probably saw about like 10 different schools of, anywhere from probably 30 to 50 fish, and they'd be kind of bowled up, just pushing wakes and everything. The dolphins were in there cutting up, eating bait and whatnot. So it was
a bunch of mullet.
It was promising to see the life down there, but not a lot on the fishing side. I don't know if it was just a combination of those jacks bowling around plus the dolphins had the fish shut down out there on the beach. We have been catching, and typically this time of year we are catching some good. They're usually like just smaller than slot to just oversized. I'd say like that 24 to maybe 32 inch fish. Typically you can do real well on the Gulf Beach this time of year with redfish. And I even saw a couple of schools about 2 weeks ago way down Fort Morgan Beach, kind of past the beach club and Kiva Dunes area or whatnot. There's a bunch of natural. Went down there and found a couple reds one day, and then before that we were catching some out there around Sand Island and whatnot. So they're who knows what's going on with the reds, because we just had that we just had that big redfish that kill, you know. So who knows? They're probably all freaked out a little bit to an extent, but typically in March, I'm always like March and April. It always feels like I'm going and looking for those trout to show up there on the Gulf Beach way earlier than they ever show up, and I always find the reds, and that always kind of saves me, you know, on some charters or just on some scouting days and whatnot. So that, I wouldn't write that off by any means, especially when you have some of these north winds. Makes for a good day out there on the beach, but kind of coupled with the dirty water, it makes it a little bit challenging as well. And one thing I've been doing to combat that little bit off-color water that we're experiencing out there on the beach, when I've had some success, is throwing gold spoons has been really good, because the spoons make a lot of flash and they're making turbulence in the water. And I think we talked about that before, maybe in my past report, you know, a week or two ago. Those gold spoons have been money. When Butch, when you and I went on Monday, that was
Blakely's.
That was what we.
Yeah.
Yep. Blakely caught a nice fish on a gold spoon. You know, I just want to use something big profile, something they can see. It's going to make some turbulence in the water. Slick lure. We think you had a real nice knock on a slick, and
I did.
And so those that's the kind of bait you want to be throwing when you're out there. Something that's going to disturb the water a little bit, help the fish find the lure, and have some flash, some color to it. You know, you don't want to be throwing something that, you know, when we get into trout fishing mode, I'm always trying to really match the color of the water and make the bait almost hide in the watercolor. Redfish, man, they're just going to kind of knock. They're just going to kind of they're going to jump on anything they see. So
Right.
color doesn't really seem to matter quite as much.
Well, when you're throwing those gold spoons, you know, what do you like to do, you know, as far as the retrieve method for those spoons? It's not really something that I've thrown a lot to target redfish. I've definitely heard about it, you know, my dad's dad, and excuse me, it's been a popular bait for redfish, but I've never used it. What's your method behind throwing it, and how do you like to work that spoon on your retrieve?
Man, that's a great question. And I have to give Captain Bobby some credit here, because he same thing. I grew up throwing a gold spoon, probably not having a whole lot of luck with it through the years, and started fishing with Bobby 15 years ago. And man, he told me then, man, it's just a chunk and wind tool. You know what I mean? You want to throw it out there, let it sink. You just want to kind of slow roll it over whatever kind of bottom you're on, you know, and that's why it works really good. You can see why it works really good. And they make them weedless with that little tab that sticks out, and it's only got a single hook on there. And so, like, you can slow roll that jucker over grass. And I kind of feel like it looks like a multitude of baits, you know. It looks like maybe a crab swimming across, or with like their little swimmer tails on the back, or maybe
definitely agree with the crab.
Probably looks like, and or kind of looks like a pogie with the flash that's going on there. But just a slow roll, chunk and wind is what I do with it. You know, remember, you know, any other bait I throw, man, I kind of want to like jig the rod a little bit or put a little action
I'm bad
on
about
it, man.
that.
Me too.
Yeah, but that spoon, man, it's a chunk and wind, you know, and you kind of want to, depending on which size you want. I think I throw a half ounce spoon. It might make one size bigger than a half ounce.
Well, that's a great tip.
But just at least a half ounce or better. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And that's the other great thing about as far as a search tool goes. That's the other great thing about a gold spoon, or a spoon in general, is that you can throw them a mile. You know, just the profile of the lure, and it being a single hook, and not having like a treble hook flapping around or anything like that. But I like to kind of keep my rod tip down and just slow roll that jucker to where it's maybe, you know, a lot of that's water clarity dependent. You know, if it's like crystal clear water, man, you can work it, 2-3 foot off the bottom. But if it's when we're talking about redfish, if you got a little bit of dirty water, you want to kind of keep it somewhat down near the bottom.
Okay.
Depending on what you're fishing, if you're fishing sand or grass. So.
Yeah. I'm sure those fish will kind of tell you what they want too, as far as that goes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep, that's exactly right. And that's the other cool thing about a spoon too is like in a sight casting, type of situation, if you roll it past, like if you see a fish and you roll it past them, and maybe they look at it, turn on it or something like that, but don't just go and eat it. You can let it drop on the bottom and kind of twitch it on the bottom a little bit,
just
and
change it
the
up
way
just
the
a little
spoon
bit.
wants to roll around, it looks like a crab at that
That's
point, and like a crab's trying to bury down in the bottom. And I've seen them kind of almost raise their tail up and tail on it, whoop, suck it in, So
Just kind of change
that's
that
something else
cadence
you
a
can
little
do.
bit.
Yep, and just kind of do like some little small twitches in front of them, and they'll find it. And the other thing too, great, is talking about redfish, is you can put some of that Procure on there to give it a little scent, or
Put a little
those
stank
little
on
fish
it.
bite.
Put some stank on it.
Yeah,
That's right.
and the little fish bite little strips.
That's right.
You can easily put one of those on there, and it's not really going to mess up the action of the lure at all.
Yeah, fish bites are a great tool.
Yep.
Great tool.
Especially with those sniffers like the redfish.
Yeah, man, absolutely.
Man, I want to bring you back to the trout just a little bit, Captain Richard. Last week, Captain Bobby was talking about how he was trying to hone in on, some grass bottom, some shell bottom, just, being the time of year that it is.
Talking about that spawn a little bit.
That's right. Yeah. So if you're targeting trout, you have a group that's wanting to target trout. What's going through your head? What's your thought process on trout this time? What are the things you're looking at and capitalizing on?
Man, really, a lot of it is bottom type, if it's grass or shell. And for the most part, anywhere, for the most part, we're fishing a lot around we're trying to fish in the shallower areas right now, because we're coming out of that winter time and trying to get into a springtime pattern, get up on the flats, get in shallow water and start to do their spawning stuff, because that's where they spawn, is in that shallow water around sand, grass, or shells. And and the thing that's going to congregate, because they've got to have something to feed on, the things that are going to congregate the bait are going to be what I would call pinch points, where you've got current coming through an area around an island or around a big point or an area like that. And that's what's going to congregate the bait, or those types of areas. And then, of course, the fish are ambush predators, so they're going to be looking for that bait to be kind of swept past them and whatnot.
Right. That makes a lot of sense.
Yep. So anywhere you can kind of find a good point that sticks out, where you've got some good either wind blown water or tide driven water coming around a point. And the other thing too that a lot of people will kind of make the mistake on is to kind of get right, like if we're just talking about an island, where you've got like a point in the east end and a point on the west end. People want to get right up on the point. Trout are not going to be up in that real shallow water. Redfish definitely get in that shallow water, that 1 to 2 foot range of water. But the trout are going to be out off of the point a good, most of the time, 75 to 100 yards out off a point, more in like what I would call 3 to 4 foot of water area. So you've kind of got to set yourself up with those types of areas. When you've got higher water, higher tide, you can get up a little bit closer. When you got lower water, you need to be on even farther out, and sometimes I'm catching fish on a point 100 to 150 yards out off of a point, when you've got a little bit lower tide level and whatnot. So
that's a great tip.
I tend to
because
kind of
I'm really bad about beating up points. That's a great tip to kind of get off the point a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just natural for you to want trolling motor right up to the point and throw your cork within
on the depth
like
change.
Right
on the
but
line.
those trout are going to be way out off of those points, and I'd say that's definitely a learning curve I went through at one point, and found I could catch the redfish real easily, but not the trout. You know what I mean? And then once I started to kind of pull off and stay out off of the point a little ways, that's when I started to get better at catching trout in those situations and whatnot. So
yeah, that's one thing I always ask whenever I'm fishing with you guys. We'll pull up somewhere. Is it a 360 cast here? You got something.
What
got
are we
some structure
doing?
on the right side. Which way are we casting it? It surprises me most of the time.
Yeah,
we're not casting where I would have casted.
Where is my optimal location?
Yep. With those trout, it's usually you could have the, like if you pulled up to a point and you had like a 45-degree angle to your right at the point and a 45-degree angle to your left away from the point, most of the time you're trying to be in a 45-degree angle away from the point. You know what I mean? Where you would think you'd catch them up there shallower. They're going to be out off of it most of the time. You know, and a lot of that too, man, it's just come to paying attention to the signs. You know, when you get around some of these areas, you know, you need to keep your eyes peeled for those slicks. You know, the fish are really going to start slicking here real good when these shrimp that are starting to move in, like I was talking about a little earlier, they're going to start to move into some of these areas, and you're going to see them slick, and you're going to see mullet jumping and little pogies and stuff flipping. You know, you need to pay attention where that kind of stuff is happening. You know, could very well be happening up in that shallow water, but you know, if it's happening out away from those points, it's usually going to be some trout out there.
Well, you talk about these shrimp moving in, you talk about the slicks, and you know, all these other small bait fish coming around. What's your favorite bait to throw? You know, what you were talking about, liking to match the color of your environment. I'm kind of the same way. I really like to kind of have a natural color looking bait when I'm fishing for trout. Last year in the spring and summer, you know, just in that, seems like we have a lot cleaner water in that time of year or something. I don't know what it is, but you know, what's your favorite colors and what's your favorite bait profile and maybe, you know, favorite bait brand or whatever to be throwing right now, you know, as these shrimp and stuff are moving in?
So go to far and by none is going to be popping cork with a voodoo shrimp under it, especially that baby voodoo, the 2.5 inch. My favorite colors are the chartreuse color, the pink, and then the pearl or glow. Those are kind of both the same with the chartreuse tail on those. That's just a go-to for everything. You can catch every species of fish with that setup, you know, and I usually set them about, you know, 24 to maybe 30 inches or so underneath my cork, you know, probably not quite 3 foot long. That would be like a deep popping cork. So less than 3 foot, but not 18 inches, you know, not 1.5 feet. So somewhere kind of in between those two. And anybody that's fished with me knows too, like popping that cork, man, I put the hammer on that cork, you know, I absolutely give that cork everything it's got. I break
you break some rods on
corks
it.
off. Yeah, I break rods, popping corks, everything, you know, popping that cork. I really like that noise. With that, another fun and great search tool early morning is going to be a top water.
Oh, yeah.
I really like pink. I really like the black and with the chartreuse head. And then, of course, pink. just like a I guess what they call hot olive, which is got like a black back, orange sides or orange belly. And it's like a green back with orange belly that Skitter Walk makes. And as far as brands, the Skitter V, Skitter Walk. And then I've always been in love with the She Dog that Mirror Lure makes. It makes a really high-pitched sound.
Yep.
And then if I'm targeting big fish, I really love the Super Spook, the great big 3-hook.
6-inch.
Yep, that's right. Yep. And I'll tell you a little trick about that I've done over the years too, about that big one. Is I take the center hook off because the center hook and the back hook want to hook together. So I actually take that center hook out of there and I actually add a split ring to the front and the back hook to kind of give them a little bit more dangle.
Yep.
And for whatever that's worth, that's worked good for me, you know, and I'll
Pro
use
tip.
it, you know. Oh yeah.
Yep, I like it.
Pro tip.
Top water's great this time of year, you know, especially these fish will really start to get fired up around these spawn activities when we're about to hit this next moon phase here in the next 2 weeks or so for April. We get on that full moon, those fish start wanting to spawn. Some of the fish we've been cleaning lately, you can see those egg sacs starting to get inflamed and starting to show back up. So, you know, they're starting to think about spawning. And they get angry. They get angry at those top waters, especially that early morning or cloudy days.
Not to mention, it is literally one of the greatest ways to catch and experience a fish. I mean, God, the amount of excitement that goes into seeing a fish come up and blow up or eat your top water is just
nothing like it. Yep.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I'm ready for wade season.
Yeah,
close.
Yeah, we're really close to wade season. I'm super excited.
Yeah, I always tell everybody when you're throwing top water, man, you got to talk to them with your rod tip, man. You know.
That's right.
That's right.
You got to give it a little wiggle and a shake.
And that's it. And then, of course, the slick lure is about to come in real handy here before we know it. You know, Butch, you and I, when we were fishing on Monday, we were seeing a lot of finger mullet around some of these areas we're fishing in. So that slick lure is really going to come in handy. We're already starting to catch a few fish on it. And that's about to really turn on. You know, I always call slick season like winter and spring, you know, or early summer, you know. So
well, there you go.
Slick season is it's still in, you know. So that's still a deal too, you know. Thing I love about that slick and kind of what we're experiencing right now with some of this off color and dirty water is that lure moves so much water, you know. I almost
a lot of displacement, man. They find that thing so crazy.
I know, and I'll be twitching it back to me sometimes when it gets close to the boat, and you'll see a roll right by your lure, and you're like, "Was that a fish rolling on my lure?" Like, nope, it's just a lure, you know.
Yep.
Like
It's
it'll
just
take
such
like
a big bait,
like a dinner plate size kind of you know, a little boil in the water and whatnot, and the fish can really start to hone in on that, especially when you've got this dirty water that we're experiencing all around, you know, throughout the bay and whatnot. So that big profile, I think, really helps the fish find the lure. So you got to kind of switch it up a little bit with the colors when you're in this dirty water. You know, a lot of times I'm trying to match the color of the water, but sometimes it gets to a point where you need to make it stick out.
I hate the dirty
versus
water.
hide.
Yep.
So don't be scared to throw that like pink and chartreuse, the pearl and chartreuse, even though it doesn't really match the watercolor. I feel like the fish are almost just seeing a shadow or a hue of the color sometimes and jumping on it.
I agree. I was just going to kind of mention, you know, kind of my last question here was you kind of mentioned some pinks and some oranges and some chartreuse colors. And here you are talking about dirty water and chartreuse. I've definitely noticed, you know, in the past 2 weeks, we really haven't had the cleanest water. River systems have been flushing down. We've had a lot of wind or whatever. And all the trout that I've caught in the past 2 weeks, redfish too, actually, and even a couple of flounder, have all been caught on a lure that's, you know, new penny colored and chartreuse belly. I mean, that's like the only color that I can get them to eat. And on top of that, you know, we're talking about kind of in our cleaner water times in the spring and summer. You know, in my trout fishing days, you know, last year, I noticed that orange and pink seemed to be a color that really shined in our waters. You know, it seemed to be that I got a lot of eats on those colors. And it was, you know, just I noticed that those colors outperformed other colors. Is there a reason why you think those colors perform better in our area? Is it the watercolor? I mean, you know, is there any theory behind that, or what do you think?
Man, I'm going to tell you what, I'm thinking about all the questions I got lined up for St. Peter when I get to the pearly gates, and that's going to be one of them. Why the heck do speckled trout love chartreuse and pink, and there's not a damn fish in the water that's swimming around that chartreuse or pink, man? What's the deal with that, you know?
So,
but
nothing orange in there either.
I know. Well, to answer your question, I don't really know that they actually see the color, the actual color. Statement. Sometimes I think they just see a hue of the color or a profile, and they, you know, when they're in that dirty water, it's challenging for them to find bait, just like it is challenging for us to find fish. So when they have an opportunity, they're going to seize the opportunity, I feel like, you know. So and sometimes it means those finding those colors that are going to stand out like that to get those bites, you know.
It's interesting. I've got a couple of friends, and one of them, I mean, he's just caught some monster trout, and something he's always saying is throw some color in your tackle box. Like, throw something you think is just ugly and just shouldn't go in the water. He's like, that's what I try to buy every time.
Sometimes my theory behind the color does not make sense, you know what I mean? But you just, you know, you got to try new stuff, you know. You do got to try new stuff,
man. You got to be open.
Well, the only input that I have for that is, I know we've talked about it before, is, and I'm not a fishologist. I mean, I can't see what fish
you and me both.
But I would think that something, especially with the water as dirty as we get around here, 4 feet down, that lure is going to look totally different. I mean, there's no telling what that what that lure and that color of the lure looks like to that fish.
Yeah, we can't even see it 4 feet down. So
Exactly. So who knows what that fish is seeing.
Yeah,
It
well,
might be seeing
that's like
gold.
when you talk about that, about the color change down deep. When I've been out on the Sea Lab trips and they're running the ROV down there, the red snapper look gray or silver. They don't even look red.
I think you lose
when they get
red
down,
after 10 feet. I think it's pretty shallow.
I think so. There's a chart.
That's right. And they say that about the color red too. Once color red gets down deep, it looks like lead, like a lead. That's one reason I don't ever use colored jig heads anymore. I just use lead colored jig heads. I don't think that makes a whole bunch of difference, but who knows when stuff sinks. The times I really see having to get fancy with your colors and your leaders and all that stuff is when you got those air clear conditions, big sun, clear water,
right,
all that stuff. That's when you need to. That's
really
when you really need to.
Tighten up.
You really need to tighten up. That's exactly right.
Man, that's a great report, Captain Richard. There's a lot of, goodness gracious,
jam-packed with
tons
tips.
and tons of tips. We appreciate your knowledge as usual, man. Folks want to get up with you and book an inshore or an offshore trip. What's the best way to get in touch with you?
Man, coldbloodedfishing.com. We're on Instagram and Facebook. Hit us up, man. We got a few openings for the end of April. Handful of dates left in May, and I think I just sent somebody my dates for June. I've only got maybe 4 or 5 dates left in June. So, and then July is still fairly open. So, if anybody's looking to get on out there, man, you need to hit me up.
Book it up. Going like
right,
hotcakes.
Captain Richard put you on there.
That's
Get
right.
you out there on some fish and rip some lips.
That's right.
All right, boys. I appreciate y'all having me on, man. Y'all have a good rest of y'all's report.
Enjoyed it, Cap. We'll see you next time. Keep whacking them.
10-4.
Well, that's another awesome report, and it was brought to you by L&M Marine. L&M Marine has something for everyone, from small hunting boats, pontoon boats, to bigger bay boats and offshore hybrids. L&M Marine LLC prides itself on its customer service and knows how important it is to have someone you can trust and to be taken care of. They are locally owned and regularly support the community. L&M Marine provides superior customer service and has an entire team that consists of professional sales members, finance experts, service technicians, and a knowledgeable parts and accessory staff to support you. Go visit their friendly, reliable, and experienced staff, now located only 6 miles north of I-10 at 34600 Highway 59 in Stapleton, Alabama, or give them a call at 251-937-1380. And also brought to you by the Hunting Exchange. In this day and age, we all know it's a struggle to sell hunting equipment on a large social media platform, and that's where the Hunting Exchange steps in. Hunting Exchange is an app for iOS and Android that gives you a one-stop shop to buy and sell your hunting gear. Whether you're looking to sell your bow, broadheads, technical apparel, stands, saddles, or anything in between, this secure platform allows you to buy and sell gear with confidence. As a buyer, each dollar you spend is insured by PayPal, and as a seller, there are no hidden charges like other platforms, and listing items is also free. Gone are the days of having listings removed from Facebook and worrying about being banned and removed from groups for wanting to sell something as simple as your bow or knives. So head on over to the App Store or Google Play and experience a new hassle-free way to buy and sell hunting gear by downloading the Hunting Exchange app today. And also, United Bank. United Bank knows what an important role agriculture plays in our local economy. At United Bank, they are here to support local farmers with financial products and services designed specifically for agribusiness, including real loans for farmland, equipment loans, working lines of credit, and more. Truth is, they deeply value the contributions agriculture makes to our communities, and they help our local farmers build successful businesses. They want to see you succeed. Learn more at unitedbank.com or stop by any United Bank branch. United Bank, all loans subject to credit approval, equal housing opportunity lender, member FDIC. All right, folks, in lieu of an offshore report this week, we're going to go head over to my partner over at the Northwest Florida Fishing Report, see what Joe Baez is up to. Let's talk about some boat loans. What are we talking about today, Joe?
Today, we're going to be diving off into something that I don't know how you couldn't use this if you were in the market for a new boat.
Right.
Boat values have, in my mind, it got crazy. I mean,
exploded, man. It's nuts.
Exploded. It seems to be like exponential every year. I mean,
oh yeah.
I can remember when it seemed like, a bay boat, $60,000. It was like, what?
Yeah, you can get the cream of the crop.
You're crazy for spending that much money for a bay boat. Now, brand new bay boat, where can you get one that's not that. And $100,000 is nothing,
No.
in for new boats anymore. Now you're starting to see, a couple $100,000 is the norm. And then, I mean, it's just wild. So I think, like you and I were talking about, I bet there's a lot of people that are getting boat loans and they probably have a lot of questions.
Yeah. You need to know what you're getting into.
You need to know what you're getting into. Also, in the market that we're in, with inventory being so low, this is happening over on the real estate side. I sell land. You better have your ducks in a row in terms of how you're going to pay for something before you start shopping.
Yeah, with the very limited inventory that's out there right now with boats and like you're talking about land.
Yeah, you will miss out on opportunities that other people who do have their financing figured out, they move fast. Things move fast right now. So yeah, we're going to get into really explaining everything you'd want to know about boat loans.
All right, Joe, today we're going to be talking with John Erwin. He represents the First Bank. He's the market president. Welcome to the show, John. How are we doing today, buddy?
Hey, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. Look forward to the discussion today.
Yes, sir. We do. Today we're going to be talking about boat loans, in particular, boat loans explained. Man, there's so many options out there. Boats are so expensive these days. I would have to imagine that the vast majority of people that are in the market for a new or a used boat these days are going to be looking at boat loans. So tell us a little bit about the First and what you do there and kind of just give us the rundown.
Thanks for the opportunity. Let me just briefly introduce myself. I'm the market president. As you indicated, that's for Mobile County. We've got 8 branches in Mobile and Washington County that I oversee, along with the commercial lending. Just a little history of the First. We're headquartered out of Hattiesburg, Mississippi, and really we've got branches all along the Gulf Coast, southern Louisiana, southern Mississippi, obviously the Alabama coast, Baldwin County, throughout the Florida Panhandle. So before we get into maybe some questions and stuff like that you had, and as we start talking about boat lending, maybe just kind of lay some basic groundwork. I really put boat lending into kind of 3 different categories. And so as we get into some Q&A this morning, obviously I'll try to make reference back to these 3 categories. But, first you've got your national lenders. A lot of times you'll see more national lenders involved when you're purchasing a boat from a dealership. These are going to typically be new boats, and you'll come across names like Bank of the West. Number 2 is credit unions. These are new and used boats, but with a credit union, it certainly has to fit in more of a box. And I say a box that may be restricted by terms, they may be restricted by loan amount. Anyway, just different parameters that are involved there. And then the third level of that is the local and community banks like the First, where these loans from time to time are going to be a little bit more customizable. We do a lot of work with business owners or individuals that then use these boats for business purposes, such as charter captains. And I really think and I say we, it's community bank, that's really where we may specialize more than these other 2 categories, working with those individuals. So with that said, let's jump into some questions that y'all may have and see if we can kind of steer y'all's audience into, providing good information for them as they are, out at these boat shows coming up and interested in buying a boat. They don't know where to go. Maybe this discussion will help lead them in the right direction.
I think Butch alluded to it in the beginning of the show. First boat I can remember seeing how much it costs. I think it was around 96, 95, 96, something like that. I remember seeing my dad buy like a Cape Horn 17. I want to say he paid like $3,500 for it or $4,000, something. Well,
I believe it.
Yeah, I mean, and then that was all. That was all we needed to go catch speckled trout and redfish, and really, I mean, shoot, we ran that thing offshore.
I was about to say we went snapper fishing in that thing.
Oh yeah, we did. We went places, and then I can remember us buying an old Pursuit, for like $10,000, and heck, I think we had that boat for 10 or 15 years, and I think sold it for what we paid for it, something like that. Nowadays, gosh, I mean, just to get yourself into a reasonably new bay boat, you're talking about 5 times that amount, 6 times that amount, and up from there. So, but the first thing that comes to my mind is, if you're on a fixed income and you're thinking about like, how long do I have to pay this boat off? What are the kind of terms? How long can you finance for in the boat financing market today?
Yeah, so some of that is going to be very much dependent on, is it new or used, and then the dollar amount of the transaction. And I say that, as I've just done research over the years, as I indicated earlier, if you're buying a new boat from a dealer, those guys are very likely to take a boat out to 20 years being brand new. And let me also say for your audience, none of this is completely factual, more than just information that I've pulled together. And while I think most of it is fairly accurate, it may not also be directly from the first, but just some banking in general and different terms and things that I've seen over the years that I've kind of put together, to help with this, the podcast this morning. So, but with that said, again, on a new boat, you may see terms upward of 20 years. What I've seen as a boat begins to decline in age, in particular with credit unions, you start getting into some odd terms. If it's, more than 25,000, then they can finance it for 7 years. If it's over 50,000, they may finance it for 10 years. But typically it's going to hit a cap in there. So, Joe, it really depends on who you're working with and also the boat that you're buying. And based on the policies, that are written at each of the different institutions as far as how much latitude is there. What I would say is if someone is getting into a higher dollar boat and you make a phone call and your first call says, hey, the maximum we do is 7 years, you may want to make a couple more phone calls and see if you can get it on a 10-year repayment, or if you can get it on a 15-year repayment. So, yeah, hopefully that answers the term question. But none of it is a real clear answer as far as a hard line in the sand.
Sure. It depends. Do your research, it sounds like.
That's exactly right.
So I was going to save this question for a little bit later in the podcast, but it's kind of applicable now. You were talking about, dealing with businesses and things like that. When does it make sense to do a commercial loan versus a personal loan? And what are some of the differences, John?
Yeah. So one, let me just say this. I can't just, you say, hey, I want to buy this boat and it's a business for me. I can't just, give you a commercial loan because of that. Right.
Right.
You have to have a true business need for that boat. Therefore, if you're running a charter service, if you do some sort of advertising, which includes, being out on the water and the boat's being used for those needs, then we get into, commercial lending, business banking side of it. I guess some pros and cons or differences between one or the other. Obviously, you buy a boat in your individual name, it's going to report to your credit bureau. A lot of times a commercial loan does not report to your credit bureau. I said this kind of in my intro, but we typically have a little bit more latitude on terms if it's on the commercial side opposed to being on the consumer side. Consumer has somewhat more stricter parameters that we have to live by. So somewhat flexibility in terms, doesn't report necessarily to credit bureau. That's not a big deal, but someone may not want a boat to potentially affect their ability to buy a house. Well, then there may be some advantages there. Otherwise, most of your interest rates and things like that are going to somewhat mirror each other, regardless of which option you take. Business owners in general, the way they file tax returns or the way they verify income, sometimes that's a little bit more tricky. Going through the consumer route and, using a community bank or going in a business route, especially if you have an existing relationship with a community lender, it makes that process a little bit more easy.
Back to the commercial side, like, is that a litmus test that each bank has on their own, where you say, hey, this is a legitimate business expense? Or is that IRS tax code type thing? I mean, how is that determined where you can say, no, this is legitimate, like you can buy this commercially?
Yeah, no, what individuals attempt to get away with, with their CPAs or their accountants is on them, from a bank standpoint, as long as that, we feel that it's a legitimate, business request, that we'll do it as treat it as a business loan.
we talked about the terms a little bit, and the length of time, like you said, it depends, but out to 20 years is possible. And shoot, we've kept boats that long easy, and especially the bigger they get, 20-year-old boats, not that old really. So what about down payments? I'm sure it's a range, like you mentioned on terms, but what can somebody expect in terms of a down payment?
That's going to vary again. I think as you get into an older boat, then a larger down payment could be required. On a brand new boat, it's very common to find 100% financing. And then, you get into a 3 to 5 year old boat, you're very likely to, see a 10 to 20% down payment. You get into something older than that, it would be 20% or greater. And that, again, that's just a rule of thumb.
Yeah, John. So what can we expect as far as a range of interest rates? Is there a rule of thumb?
So there is. And again, this is kind of, just some research that I've done historically. Obviously you go buy the brand new boat, you're getting a 20-year rate. Well, very similar to mortgage rates, it's cheaper to get a 15-year rate than it is a 30-year rate. And that's no different than with financing a boat. And so you may pay 6-7% on a 20-year rate, but hey, there's no risk in it. It's a 20-year rate guaranteed to have that same interest rate over that time period. And I've experienced the same with the credit union. If it's a 7-year rate, it's one thing. If it's a 10-year rate, it's going to be slightly higher than that. In general, boats, cars, those rates are tied to prime rate. Prime is currently 3.25%. And you typically see that, so those rates today, you take prime +1 just as a rule of thumb. And for, your kind of entry level, not entry level boat, but entry discussion point on where rates are, you take prime +1, you're looking at a rate of 4.25 to 4.75, for financing. And then again, as you begin to stretch the term out longer, you see that rate go to 5 to 6 to 7, as you get into different lenders or, different avenues that you're taking there.
John, we're talking about how some folks are able to use a commercial loan through their business. Is the boat itself always securing the loan, or are there unsecured loan options that you could use to buy a boat? Obviously you could go get a personal loan. I guess don't necessarily ask you why you're getting that loan, but is there ever a situation where you're getting a loan to buy a boat and it's not secured by the boat itself?
In today's environment, Joe, as you talked about your dad having the Cape horn and $3,500. Well, let me tell you, that boat today would probably still sell for $3,500. And sure,
No doubt.
If someone came to the bank today to, borrow money on that boat, we might as well, instead of financing a 1996 boat, we might as well look at giving you $3,500 unsecured for it.
Right.
So are there some circumstances that you could, potentially look at an unsecured amount opposed to, using the boat as collateral? Sure. But it's going to be primarily speaking in a very, smaller dollar figure, or a boat that's just too old that the bank doesn't have interest as holding as collateral. Really no different than the Pursuit, right? That boat's probably still worth $10,000 today, if not more than that.
Oh, yeah.
But generally speaking, the boat's going to serve as the primary collateral. And unless we're getting into a low loan amount, a couple $1,000, maybe less than $10,000, that we would potentially just consider it unsecured.
I think that Pursuit is still living, actually, isn't it, Joe?
Oh, yeah. I see it all the time.
She's still kicking.
Yeah, it's caught a heck of a lot more fish.
They're bulletproof
than the one we've got now. So
Yep, for sure. Tried and true.
Calls them up.
Yep. John, is a boat loan fixed interest and principal payments like a home mortgage, or is it calculated differently?
Yeah, so I hate to sound like a banking geek here when I say that, but boat loans are probably more simple than even a mortgage loan. And I say that it's a simple interest, meaning it calculates interest daily. And so every time you make a monthly payment, it pays the interest that's due. The rest of it goes directly to your principal. So there's really no maybe discouragement for somebody to pay extra. It's going to pay the interest that's due. Everything else goes to principal. Benefit there is your interest calculation next month is a little bit less because it's calculating it based on your outstanding principal balance. So very simple calculation. I say that at least the way my bank calculates it. Very simple calculation. Again, it encourages principal reduction once interest is paid in a given month.
Speaking of principal reduction, are there differences in the different loan products? Like, is there ever a situation where there is a prepayment penalty? I mean, I've seen that for different loan products, but is there ever a time where you get a loan and then you're ready to pay it off, you pay it off, and you're going to get a penalty for doing that?
Yeah, so I do believe, and I've seen with some individuals using a national lender through a dealership, that there may be, hey, you need to use our financing option, and there's a 1-year prepayment penalty. From a credit union and certainly from a community bank standpoint, I would never put a prepayment penalty on a boat. Have no need to.
Because I mean, I guess on y'all's end, like you're not getting these boat loans and then taking them out in the secondary marketplace and selling them to someone else to hold the note. I mean, you guys are holding the note. These are people you know personally. You work with them every day, and you want to see them pay that loan down as quickly as they can, right?
Sure, that's exactly right. And then we're not specialty boat lenders, as you just indicated. I typically, the boat loans that I do, it's for customer of mine. Maybe a referral that somebody sent me through Facebook or something like that. But I'm not, out there at the boat show with a booth trying to get boat loans. And you see a lot of that from credit unions. And again, as I mentioned earlier, you see, a lot of that, you go to a dealer, they're going to put you, with a large national lender or potentially a credit union.
So, Butch was wondering about how boat loans are really structured. Are they like a mortgage, and you answer that question. It's just a simple interest calculation. Every time you make a payment of principal down, that interest is going to be recalculated the next month. As far as that interest, though, you mentioned that rates right now are in the 4s somewhere, prime plus 1%, something like that. Obviously, prime is an adjustable rate. It goes up and down, although it's been stable for a really long time now. Are boat loans themselves typically structured such that they are adjustable, or are they predominantly fixed, or is that just a choice for the consumer?
Yeah, so I was probably a little maybe confused, or not confused, but confusing in my statement when I, made reference to prime rate. The prime rate being an index that kind of sets consumer loan rates in general. And yes, you're 100% correct. Prime rate, matter of fact, we probably could expect some hikes in prime rate this year, obviously with some of the inflationary concerns and stuff like that are out there. With that being said, those are fixed rates. But what I will say is, as I mentioned, rates are in that, 4 to 5% range today. Well, as we begin to see prime go up from 3.25 to 3.5 to 3.75, you're going to see a direct correlation in car loan rates, boat loan rates, and all of a sudden, they're not in that 4 to 5 range anymore. They're now in the 4.5 to 5.5% range, or in the 5 to 6% range, depending on your lender.
Yeah, John, let's touch a little bit on balloons. I'm not very familiar with them at all. I know there's differences in commercial and personal loans like we've discussed, but let's talk a little bit about balloons and what are some options there and what exactly does that mean?
So, one, I think people initially hear that term and it causes them concern or a bit of fright, right? Oh, what, a balloon? Well, in a community bank sense, we typically would offer a balloon. It may be we're offering you a 5-year term, but we're calculating your payment based on a longer time period. So, it's a 5-year term, but we're giving you a payment based on a 10-year calculation or a 15-year calculation. I'm sure the next, hey, John, why would you do that? Well, the benefit that we have there on a 5-year balloon product is I can offer my customer a lower rate on a 5-year balloon than if I had to commit to a full 10-year payment or a full 15-year payment. And so, a lot of times people don't keep boats long enough. Certainly what I've, seen just in my experience with lending, 3 to 5 years is probably the most that you typically see an individual keep a boat. And the 5-year balloon would typically work very well for them. But again, the main thing to answer your question, why a balloon is to take a better rate today. And while you're taking some risk with the balloon, you're taking a lower rate opposed to a 10 or a 15-year rate, which is going to cost you more.
Sure. Makes sense.
I think what you're saying too, like a lot of the heartburn that people have around balloons and adjustable rates and things of that nature is, I think it harkens back to when you've heard stories about people who used balloon products to buy more of something than they could really afford. And then when that balloon happened, they couldn't afford it anymore. I'm sure that's not really what we're talking about here. You're just basically saying we're going to set your rate and your payment, really just setting a rate, I guess, for this 5-year period based on a 15-year loan. But then at 5 years, we're going to balloon. What does that balloon look like? Is that a balloon to a new rate? Is it predetermined when you set the loan? Like, hey, today we're at prime plus 1%. In 5 years, we're going to balloon to prime plus 1%. Or is it a fixed number that we know we're going to balloon to? How does that work?
Yeah, so great question. That is completely tied back again to the prime conversation, is what has prime done. And so in 5 years from now, if, prime is 6%, then you can expect a rate, some variation above prime at that time. So it's 100% an opportunity for the banks in general to reprice a loan more accurately with the rate environment that we're currently in. And again, therefore, we're only committing to, 5 years at a time. I'll tell you, we see a lot of these loans when it deals with commercial real estate or somebody that's acquiring rental properties, a commercial building, commercial equipment. A lot of that is structured on, a 5-year balloon, based on a longer amortization of that. And what the longer amortization does is offers a lower monthly payment. Let's get down to it. And then it makes the $100,000 boat a little bit more affordable because, hey, who wants $100,000 in a 5-year payoff or a 7-year payoff? And so we have the potential flexibility to come in here and offer you a 5-year term. That's a competitive interest rate, but based on a 15-year payment, and all of a sudden you got a much more affordable payment, for that boat. And in most cases with boats and value, there's no reason for the boats that they're building today for it to last, for 15 years. I mean, heck, let's just look at a, 2005 bay boat right now. I mean, it's very likely it's still worth $25,000 today. So,
oh yeah, well, I mean, it's likely that in the last 5 years, if you've bought a boat in the last 5 years,
appreciated.
It's worth more than what you paid.
For sure.
At a minimum, it's worth what you paid for it if you've taken care of it. And so yeah, like you said, it's a cash flow thing, right? You're financing at a better rate, and your payment is not as much. But heck, in the last 5 to 10 years, you could be paying, a $100,000 boat may be costing you what a standard loan product, a $75,000 boat would cost, and then you hang on to it for 3 to 5 years, enjoy it, and then you upgrade and do it all over again. That being said, when we hit that balloon period. So we've had the boat for 5 years. We've been paying the payment for 5 years, and now we're to that point. We've been paying it on a 15-year term. When that balloon happens, is it recalculated over, say, a 10-year term because there's 10 years left of that 15, or is it recalculated at a 15? How does that work? How does the term change?
So generally speaking, and this is the same again if we were doing a commercial property or rental property, anything else that we use a balloon product for. But, if we put it on an initial 15-year AM, when it comes up on its 5-year maturity, yes, the next logical thing would be renew it. That payment would then be based on a 10-year payoff or a 10-year amortization.
Great explanation, man. So, we're talking about getting a boat loan and getting all the documentation to you. What do we need to be prepared to provide to you for documentation to start the loan process?
Butch, that's going to vary greatly from lender to lender. In my case, if it's consumer versus business, a lot of your credit unions may have an application, or you can go online and apply to get the process started. For me, on the consumer side, a lot of times it may just be a couple of pay stubs, from the borrowers. On the, business banking side, we're going to be a little bit more detailed. We're going to want to see 2 years tax returns, and, understand the business and whatnot. But in all, it's still a pretty short process. I mean, I can, typically turn a decision around in, 2 to 3 business days, considering no major hiccups or, getting derailed work-wise. We can turn decisions around pretty quick, and it's a fairly painless process. It's not, not terrible. So we're not taking a blood sample or, not having to put your firstborn up or anything. Right. That's exactly right. Yeah. And I say that a lot. I mean, man, and this isn't us, this is just across the board. I mean, individuals, applying for a mortgage loan, and the amount of paperwork for a mortgage loan is just daunting. Mm-hmm. A boat loan is really not that bad. And then even some of your national lenders may not even need that. I mean, if you hit a certain credit score, stated income, they may run with it, with an application only. That's certainly above what we do, as a bank. So I can't speak too much to that. But, there's like the housing market, some of that stuff's getting crazier and crazier as far as what's available out there.
Sure. So along those same lines, say we're looking at a boat, or we know that we're in the market for a boat. Is this something that we can get, like a pre-approval letter for? So whenever we find that perfect boat, we can just present it. What are you looking at there?
Yeah, you can. I don't do a whole lot of that. Y'all kind of mentioned this earlier, but a lot of times I'm working with people I know, and sure. they found the boat that they want. I'm like, hey, go get me a bill of sale, send me your tax returns, and give me a day. In most cases, feel pretty good about a situation before I get too deep into it. But we do have, a formal pre-approval process. And if it's a new customer or somebody that, hey, I want the confidence before I go shopping that I've got my financing in place, then we could certainly provide somebody a pre-approval, get them, approved for a fixed dollar amount, and then, send them out shopping. And that's whether they're buying a brand new boat or, on Facebook Marketplace, kind of scouring the used boat market.
Speaking of that Facebook Marketplace example, there's a wide range of what you can spend on a boat. You can spend a few tens of thousands of dollars, and you can just keep going from there. So are there any limits on total financing? I mean, I know that this is going to be dependent on a person's own credit worthiness and income and all that, but all those factors aside, are there any practical limits on how much you can finance for a boat? So if somebody's looking, there's plenty of folks that listen to our reports that are in the market for millions and millions of dollar boats, not just
sure.
a couple tens of thousands of dollar boats. So how does it work with much larger boats, higher prices, much bigger boats?
Yeah, what I'll say, I mean, certainly for us, I don't feel like there's any limits. You may run into some limits with the credit unions. I don't think you'll run into a whole lot of limits as it relates to the national lenders. The larger boats do get into a little bit more complex situation. A lot of times when something's over 26 feet, we may require a ship's mortgage, which is properly documenting a boat through the U.S. Coast Guard. But no, we've financed the Freemans. We've, the 34-foot boat. It's certainly completely within our scope of things that we would work on. So, no hard limits. I think you hit the nail on the head there, Joe. It's 100% about credit worthiness and, an individual's to demonstrate their ability to repay. I mean, at the end of the day, we as banks in general are not in the boating business. We are in the lending business. And so we just want to be making long-lasting credit relationships with customers. We're not interested in having to resell the boat. That's never fun. So, you mentioned Facebook Marketplace and kind of what's out there. I think somewhat of a challenge in the market today, and I even see this in the used car business, is, boats are selling significantly above NADA.
Right.
And if you're using NADA for value purposes, then, how does that impact the lending? And some of that may get back into, hey, John, what is the down payment on this boat? Well, may need to pull a value on it to understand what its documented value, what accessories and add-ons you can add to it, to try to get that value more in line. Otherwise, not because of the year of the boat, but strictly because of the asking price. And if it's the boat you want, you're maybe willing to pay more than what NADA says it's worth. And again, in this boating market, that's entirely possible. There's just not a lot of inventory out there. And so, hey, how do we get comfortable with it? Well, we need you to put a little bit more of a down payment down.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's definitely happening. It almost seems like it makes more sense to buy a new boat right now. Do you see that in the market? I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Just aside from lending, in the used boat market, y'all can lend on both used boats and new boats. Gosh, I mean, what do you think? I know you don't want to give anybody any false information here, but sure seems like buying new right now is almost the way to go. What do you think?
If you can find a boat manufacturer that can deliver a boat.
Right. Yeah, if you can find one.
Yeah, or hey, we've got the boat, we don't have a motor to put on it.
Right.
I've heard that, recently as well.
Or hatches or switches, or there's all kind of different reasons why they're
That's right.
unable to produce.
Or the computer chips or whatever else it is. That's right. Now we'll save for your next podcast, my ability to flip a boat. I'll save that I'll put on another hat another day.
Yeah.
But I'll say this, there's still some deals out there. I think you just got to be patient. You got to be selective. Somebody that bought a boat brand new 3 years ago could sell it for their payoff balance and think they're getting a good price for it, but they probably are leaving $10,000 on the table and could probably sell it for what they paid for it, or potentially more than they paid for it, strictly because of where new boat prices have gone over the last 24 to 36 months. So
yeah,
again, it's a moving target, but there's still good deals out there. I find myself kind of looking and shopping every day. If you're in the market for a good deal, you probably don't need to have bank financing. You better be ready to strike quick with cash, or potentially being the seller and they're patient enough to wait for you to get through the buying process, using a bank, because it's not an overnight process to get to the point of, okay, here's a check and we're ready to do business.
It sounds like a lot like the real estate market right now. If you're coming into a transaction where it is a good deal, or even it's just something that's available and you want it, you really need to have your offer buttoned up with as few contingencies as possible.
Because there's probably multiple buyers.
There are multiple buyers for just about everything right now.
Yep.
And if you're offering even offering more money, but you've got a contingency that, I got to go get my financing in order, a lot of folks are just going to take the bird in hand, because maybe they're trying to pay off a loan, or maybe they're trying to get a different boat and they need that money to go they don't care about an extra, X amount. They just want to get it sold now.
Yeah.
Or their wife wants them to get it sold right now. So,
Yeah.
Just thinking along those lines, I think that pre-approval is smart to do right now. If folks want to reach out to you and talk through their specific situation, whether that's commercial, personal loan on a boat, and go ahead and get that pre-approval process started, what's the best way for them to reach out to you guys and just find out more information?
Yeah, certainly anybody could visit any of our branches along the Gulf South, as far as if it's a local person in the kind of local viewing audience. People are certainly welcome to contact me directly. My email is Erwin, and that's ERWIN at thefirstbank.com. My cell phone is public information. That's 251-234-1458. Again, I get a lot of grief for having banker's hours, but it's really just the opposite. It seems like we never stop. We're always responding to a text, a phone call while we're on vacation. And let me say this: I get a lot of, either somebody tags me in Facebook when somebody's kind of shopping boat rates, or hey, looking for boat financing options, and somebody may tag me. I'm very quick to be honest with somebody and say, hey, based on your scenario, you may want to check with a credit union. I'm not always the best spot when it comes to this. I tell people all the time, I'm really good at what I do. And that's, working with business owners, working with somebody that, I work with a number of charter captains in the area. And, I like to think I make banking easy for those guys. And for that reason, they continue to come back to me.
Well, it has been enlightening. I think we've answered every question I could think of. Butch, what about you?
Very much so. You did a great job of laying it all out, and I think I'll know what to look for if I ever get a boat loan.
Yeah.
Man, I'd be glad to help y'all. Again, I appreciate y'all's time today. Appreciate you letting me share a little bit of my knowledge, in the kind of world of banking as it relates to boat loans. I appreciate your audience for listening in, and look forward to being back one day.
Yeah,
absolutely, man. John. Appreciate you sharing your knowledge.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Thanks, guys.
I don't know about you, Butch. I think it deserves some more attention. I've always been kind of, I would say this it's pretty accurate to say that just the term adjustable rate, it gives me a little bit of heartburn. I think it just, like I said, it goes back to the 07, 08 crash, and you just heard about all, almost like, these folks that got into trouble with it. But they got into trouble because they
couldn't afford it in the first place.
Couldn't afford it in the first place. You know, I mean, this is just something where if you look at that, this is something where it's just honestly just making it easier to afford something that has gotten, unaffordable.
Ridiculously. Yeah.
In a lot of cases, it's crazy.
It is
how boat values have gone up. I mean, like we talk about it all the time. I mentioned it earlier in the show. If you wanted to go catch speckled trout and redfish, it didn't used to take all that much. Now Right.
And I don't want to say clunker, but my 82 Mako is a clunker. Yeah. The gap between those two boats are unbelievable.
Something that's had its use, something that's been really used.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's wild. And then, like you say, I mean, the gap between a few-year-old boat and a new boat, it's not that much. So, I mean, if you're looking at just, then you're going, all right, well, I'm going to save a little money. I'm going to go used. Are you, though?
Right. You need to look at the terms and the values and the interest rates.
And exactly. And what it costs to own it, because, are things under warranty? Everybody knows. I mean, it's not if something on a boat is going to break, it's when it's going to break. And so,
for sure,
I mean, it's just good to see that, like John was saying, there's just a lot of different options out there. It really depends on what kind of boat you're buying, your particular situation, whether you're a business owner or not. There's really a lot that is going to be able to be personalized to your situation. It's good. I'm glad it's out there because I don't know.
It's a lot.
Afford all these boats.
For sure, man. And I think John did a really great job of laying it all out and explaining the interest rates and the terms as far as the balloon. Like you say, that kind of has a negative connotation. But that's not what it is designed to do.
It's not designed to trick you.
Right. Right.
So it's not designed to make a loan where a loan shouldn't be given.
Agreed.
That is what was happening in the 07. Mm-hmm. I mean, people were getting loans they shouldn't have gotten. And I'm glad we did this show because this is going to be something that we can point people to for years to come, really, in terms of the kind of questions everybody's got these same questions, and it's not something you do a lot. So
right.
Hopefully we answered them all. If we didn't, you guys reach out to John. I'm sure he can answer your specific situation. It's been fun.
That's right. Enjoyed it, brother. Talk to you soon. All right, guys, that wraps up another great segment. Y'all take a quick minute and check out a few of this week's great sponsors. That segment was brought to you by Admiral Shellfish. Admiral oysters are available at select restaurants and can also be purchased by the public at Bon Secours Fisheries, Inc. and Ahi Seafood in Fairhope, Alabama. Call for availability. From a simple, nutrient-dense appetizer at home or a shucking party with friends, Admiral oysters will steal the show. Follow their adventures on Instagram at Admiral Shellfish Co. And also brought to you by Alabama Marine Resources. The Alabama Marine Resources Division reminds all recreational anglers who harvest gray triggerfish, greater amberjack, or red snapper that their catch must be reported through Snapper Check. This includes vessels, kayaks, and shore anglers who possess any of these reef fish. Reporting is mandatory and must be done prior to landing fish in Alabama, regardless of where the fish were caught. Anglers can report to Snapper Check online at outdooralabama.com or through the official Outdoor AL app. For more information about Snapper Check or any of the 2021 fishing seasons, please visit outdooralabama.com. And also, CCA Alabama. 30 special tagged redfish will be released inside Alabama coastal waters before the tournament starts on the Saturday of Memorial Day weekend and ends on Labor Day, Monday, for 101 days of angling. If CCA does not have a grand prize winner during the tournament, the grand prize will convert into a raffle for all registered anglers. Registration is only $75 and $40 for current CCA members. Sign up now at joincca.org/star tournament. All right, man, we got to do what did you learn before we get out of here today? What'd you pick up from today's reports?
Golly, man, wasn't today just like jam-packed?
For sure. Cold-blooded really went deep on some things.
Yeah, he really did. I mean,
color, tactics, really like the spoon talk.
Right. Talking about what to do with these spoons. That's just not really something that I've kind of picked up and approached because, I mean, I hear about the success that people have on it, but I don't know about it. I haven't really done research on it.
I mean, I would think from the beach, redfish is obviously a great topic, but Spanish mackerel.
They're just going to tear that spoon up, right?
I mean, I would think that pretty much anything will get a spoon.
I'm sure. And, it's just not something that I've done a lot of, slow rolling, trying to catch those other fish, definitely getting out there and throwing it for Spanish and bluefish and whatever else may hit, you know what I mean? But thinking that it's going to be an optimal bait for redfish, you know, like I said, I've heard, but it just wasn't something on my radar, really, especially throwing soft plastics and twitch baits and having success. But sounds like I need to get a gold spoon. Sounds like I need to slow roll it.
I mean, Captain Bobby has told me multiple times that he's won tens of thousands of dollars, maybe even, I forget the exact number, maybe even hundreds of thousands of dollars. And he used to fish a ton of redfish tournaments from, Florida all the way over to Texas.
It's a staple redfish bait up and down the coast. You know what I mean?
But it's just something that we don't use a lot here that I don't think anyway.
Yeah.
You don't hear about it anyway.
We don't hear about it, or maybe just us on the show, we're not tapped into it. I don't know. But, like I said, I think it's something I'm going to grab a few of them of.
Arsenal.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go see what's up with that. And, it can't be a bad bait to have. We've talked to Scott Kennedy on the show before, talking about those bugs jigs and kind of on the flats there. I bet a gold spoon would shine too. The only thing I would see the issue there is maybe the splash.
I was just thinking the same thing. Those bug jigs have the quieter entry.
Yeah, but I can imagine a gold spoon working in the same area. And, talking to Richard about these colors, and kind of just keeping an open mind, when it's clear water, you guys kind of try to be as natural as possible, keep that approach minimal and not, necessarily so crazy, but at the same time, keep an open mind.
Don't be scared to go wild. Like
that's right. I got a buddy and his name's Bennett Kircher. And I mean, dude, straight up, he's not afraid to throw the ugliest bait in the whole world, the ugliest bait in the water. And next thing you know, he's reeling in a 28-inch trout.
Yeah. I mean, we don't even know what a pretty bait we think looks
right.
Like. I mean,
that's all for us. That's all for us. And exactly he's ripping lips on those, what I would call ugly and flamboyant colors. And he's told me, you got to put some in the box. So I have, and I've caught some fish on these colors over time. You see Patrick Garmison throwing that ugly slick lure, that bright pink with the chartreuse tail.
Yep. He likes the lemon. That one's really bright. He likes the pink one. That one's really bright.
I know I call it ugly, but that's just what it is to me. Is when I look at the water and I think of a fish, that's just not what I'm thinking about putting in there.
Yeah.
And so, just keeping an open mind on these colors and what I want to catch and maybe not throwing these things that other anglers are throwing, we'll pick up some bites, maybe something different.
I think one thing that I picked up definitely from the beach bum was catch you a jack, man.
Yeah, you guys.
Very, very, very underrated fish that are pretty plentiful around here whenever it gets pretty warm.
That's right. You've really got to do it. I had a ton of luck catching them on our beach here last year. Our public beaches, they will get slap full of them early morning. I mean, they'll just start running down the beaches like you guys were describing in schools of 20 and 30 and 40. I mean, and they will just straight up crash on the mullet, run them into the sand. They'll get 10 feet away from the bank of the beach.
Yeah.
And if you stay around long enough, you can see pretty much the whole ocean ecosystem. The mullet are around, the jacks show up, and then the next thing you know, unfortunately, the dolphins do the same. They show up and start eating on the mullet and eating on the smaller jacks. And you can just see it all happen, man. It's pretty cool. So yeah, if you're in this area, you got to get out there and target a jack. And one more thing from the beach bum is, the pompano jig, and not just having to throw a set rig out there, a surf rig. Fish bites are a great way to target them, but maybe you're not picking up a bite on your fish bites. Maybe you hop out there with a pompano rig and do some blind casting. I'm sure you'll catch some Spanish. I'm sure you'll catch some blues and your other fast fish in that warmer water. But people are definitely catching pompano do it. And I actually saw Christopher Vesche say that all of his biggest pomp have come on a jig.
Yeah, I know he throws a lot of jigs.
So
David Thornton likes the jigs a lot too.
Pier pounder. That's got to hold some weight, throwing those jigs for him. You see a 4.5 pounder here. You hear about other people catching 6 pounders on a jig, and that's heavy. It's got to be something you pick up and try as far as pompano goes. So that'll be another thing that I kind of learned about, was how to work it and techniques, and beach bum kind of describing that. And gold spoons and pompano jigs, I'm gonna have a few in the box from now on.
I like it, man. Like those Bajíos?
Oh, dude, these Bajío sunglasses are great. Picked them
Super
up.
clear.
Been hearing about them on the podcast. You keep telling me about them, and I've been wearing them. I've got the swashes on.
I like them a lot.
And,
those are new, right? They're newer style.
They are newer style, and I just really love them. A lot of decreased light in the sides, right there on the corner edges of your eye there. I had a lot of light coming in.
Yep.
On my older frames, I had some Oakleys, and I didn't even realize until I put the Bajíos on. I was like, wow, like that was a lot of light coming in there. And
they sell themselves,
real
man.
Different.
Those lenses are incredible.
God, they're great. And I guess if anybody's interested, they really need to go to Sunglass World and pick some up. There's Bo, Bo Crow over there. You guys tell him you heard about on the podcast. I'm sure he'll hook you up or something. He's got some great references and some beautiful sunglasses in there, and a cool store. So
it's a very cool place.
Yeah, right there on Airport and Chillenders. That's near the Hobby Lobby. Right there over there in that area. So Sunglass World is where I pick my Bajíos up, and they're just great. So I appreciate that reference.
Yeah, man, no problem. It's a game changer. Whenever I see something that changes my game that much, I like to spread the word around.
That's right, man. It's crucial to have good glasses on the water. You only get one pair of eyes, so you got to protect them.
You hope, anyways.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
Man, I really enjoyed you co-hosting with me today. Thanks for being a part of it. You're always a great interviewer.
Well, thank you so much for having me on, Butch. It's so easy to talk about this subject matter and be around guys that, want to talk about the same and doing the same all the time. It's great being on here with you. Great friend, and just I enjoy it so much. So I appreciate it. Thank you guys for having me on.
Absolutely. If folks want to follow you on Facebook and on Instagram, I know you've like to fish Dolphin Island, doing different things, sheep's head, chasing. If people want to keep up with your shenanigans, what's the best way to follow you? Yeah, man, you guys can check me out on Dolphin Island Fishing, all one word. That's on Instagram, and as well as Tanner Deas, Deas on Facebook. Y'all can contact me any way there. Hit me in the messages, give me a follow. Comment on the photos, do whatever you want to do, and we can talk some fishing or whatever. I would love to hear from you. I love it, man. Again, thanks for being the co-host, and we'll hear from you next time, man. All righty, man. All right, guys, that wraps up another great segment. Let's take a quick break and check out a few more of this week's great sponsors. That segment was brought to you by Killer Dock. As anglers, we put a lot of time, money, and passion into fishing, but most of us do not have a fish cleaning station that we are proud of. Many of us are suffering from dock dysfunction. A rod and table with rusty metal, this is just no good. But the dock enhancement that we've all been waiting for is finally here. Killer Dock uses marine-grade aluminum to make fabulous fish cleaning tables and stunning canopies that will keep us out of the sun. Killer Dock combines durability, function, and design to uniquely upgrade your entire dock experience. Visit killerdock.com to see more. And also brought to you by National Land Realty. If you're in the market to sell your land, check out the fastest growing, most innovative land brokerage in the country. In 2019, we sold over 109,000 acres of land, totaling nearly $500 million. That's $1 billion in sales. With the largest online presence in the industry, the bottom line is when you market your land through National Land Realty, the right buyers will know your land is for sale. Contact your Emerald Coast National Land agent. That's me, Joe Baya, at jbaya@nationalland.com, or call me at 850-296-7098. That wraps up another great show, folks. Please subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to podcasts. If you'd like us to email you the podcast each week, just text the word fishing to 314-665-1767. Again, just text the word fishing to 314-665-1767. Subscribe to our email list, and we'll send you the new show each week. You guys keep whacking them. We'll talk to y'all next week. This week's Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report has been brought to you by Dixie Supply and Baker Metal Works are proud to be your metal roofing headquarters for over 40 years. Save time and money by buying from the most reliable manufacturer on the Gulf Coast. Buy it today, pick it up today. With the addition of their new store in Cantonment, Florida, they now have 8 locations to serve you. Dixie Supply and Baker Metal Works, your metal roofing headquarters. And also brought to you by Bucks Island. They have new pontoon boats, bass boats, bow riders, and aluminum boats for sale. They provide boat service on all kinds of boats, even if they weren't purchased from Bucks. Visit them at 4500 Highway 77 in Southside, Alabama, or give them a call at 256-442-2588. And also brought to you by Hilton's Offshore Charts, bringing you the highest quality online satellite fishing chart since 2004. Your source for sea temps, altimetry, currents, and watercolor at hiltonsoffshore.com.
This week's Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report brought to you by me, Angelo DePaola, The Coastal Connection. Find us online at thecoastalconnection.com.
And also brought to you by Bahio Sunglasses. See more, catch more. Experience the clearest lenses on the planet with Bahio Sunglasses. Try on a pair at your local retailer or check out BahioSunglasses.com to see for yourself. And also brought to you by BoatersList.com. If you own or run a boat, you know how difficult it can be to find the right company for the task at hand. Sign up at BoatersList.com to find a company to work with on your next boat project. And also brought to you by Fish Bites. Are you tired of stinking baits? Fish Bites don't stink or leave a stink on hands and everything else. Won't come off the hook during a hard cast or in rough waters. Check out the full line of scented saltwater and freshwater baits and tackle at fishbites.com. And also brought to you by MB Ranch King. MB Ranch King hunting blinds and feeders are built to last, right here in the USA. They offer high-quality, easy-to-use corn and protein feeders that can be filled with both feet on the ground. Call Kevin today for more info or a quote at 205-807-2937. MB Ranch King, built in the pursuit of perfection. And also brought to you by Test Calibration. Test Calibration is your source for sales and service of diesel turbochargers and fuel injection systems since 1976. Contact them at 800-822-0057 or visit them online at testcalibratondieselandturbo.com.